the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallant, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
It brings back the painful memory of each loss. The loss of a loved one, a husband, a father, a brother, a neighbor, a co-worker, a friend. While the pain and sorrow of that loss is always in our hearts, today Billerica honors each individual. Today Billerica memorializes each name into eternity. Today it is clear Billerica says collectively, these are our heroes. We shall never forget their sacrifice. With the prayers etched on the panels of the memorial, today Billerica dedicates this memorial to the cherished and lasting memory of each first responder. In our hearts, we also pray these names will be the only names engraved on this granite memorial. On behalf of the entire committee, we are honored to have made this memorial possible, and with humility and pride, we turn this memorial over to the town. Thank you.
This project was the death of a police officer, Jack McGuire, an officer in my hometown. Out of this awful event came the inspiration of a good group of people to erect a monument to commemorate the sacrifice of those public safety officers that made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of the town of Billerica. Too often, it seems, we are memorializing our friends and family members who have given their lives in this ultimate measure of devotion to the safety of the public. It is a humbling task to recognize these men and to know that at some time in the future, names of other men and women will be etched on this stone. Those individuals' lives, too, will have been cut short so that all of us here today and our children's children can feel safe in their community and enjoy a quality of life and happiness that too often we take for granted. I have spoken with several family members of the men whose names are inscribed on this monument, and Nancy Strunk put it best. It is not how these men died, it is how they lived their lives that we should remember. While some of the lives represented on this stone are more recent, two of them we must rely on newspaper articles and census data to tell us about who they were. So today, we should remember how these men lived their lives. We should remember that Cassius White was not just a victim of a death card, as was flamboyantly recorded in the language of the day in 1936. Although it was the Lowell Sun, one could argue that the reporting style still exists today, but I digress. Cassius White was a Billerica Special Police Officer. He was married to Mabel Dutton. He was known to participate in policemen's charities. Little else is known because it has been 77 years since he passed. The little information we do know is a credit to the research done by Betty Patrick and Tim McKenna of the Billerica Police Department. Little is also known about William McMillan. None of his descendants still remain here in Billerica. He was married to Myra Bigelow in 1921. There was an entry in the Billerica Garden Club Monthly in 1912 recognizing him as a winner in a card party contest at the Gardner Parker Hall. So be forewarned. If you have any bad habits, that's what will surface about you 100 years from now. Thomas Strunk always wanted to be a police officer. before he reached his goal, he wore many different hats to get there. He served in the Army, he drove tractor trailers, he worked in corrections, a job he didn't particularly like. He went to school nights and weekends to earn his criminal justice degree from Northeastern. He worked in Boston Children's Hospital Police Department. And in 1977, he was appointed to the Billerica Fire Department, a position he held through 1983. Then finally, in 1984, Tom reached his goal of being appointed to the Billerica Police Department. Tom was a carpenter. He was very handy and could fix anything. He loved scuba diving. In fact, he was an integral part of starting a rescue diving team. He was a member of the Honor Guard. He coached sports teams, took the kids to hockey, put an ice rink in his backyard. There weren't enough hours in the day for Thomas. He loved his boys. He read books with the kids and played Legos with them. He loved going to the beach. Teaching his kids to swim was important to him. He liked to fish and tried to teach his kids to fish, but they weren't biting. He made footprints of the Easter Bunny on Easter and loved to decorate the house out around the holidays. Nancy also tells me he was not a hypocrite and did not suffer fools well. Thomas was 32 at the time of his passing. His wife Nancy was 30. Nancy and Thomas were junior high school sweethearts. She remembers his grin and how he loved his children. He was a wonderful husband and father. Asked what she remembered most about him, what stands out, Nancy said, he walked into a room and made you smile. He wouldn't just walk up the stairs to greet the kids. He ran up with enthusiasm. He was devoted and loyal. He was from Cambridge and she was from Memphis. They had met at Cobbett's Pond up in Wyndham, a place both of them used to go in the summer as kids, a tradition they maintained with their own family every year. This was a special time with his family, and he looked forward to it. Kenneth was stationed at Fort Knox in the Army in 1952, and he was no dummy. He realized what a catch he had in Marjorie, so he married her on his first leave to make sure she didn't get away. He was a very caring and good father of 5 kids. He would take his kids on picnics, and at the time of his passing, his children ranged from the ages of 5 to 15. Kenneth was a good provider. He worked 2 jobs to support his family. However, he never brought his work home with him and never spoke about it at home. He was a jack of all trades and loved to work on cars. Kenneth got things done in his own way. In fact, with the help of his brothers, he built his own house here in Billerica in 1957. Asked what stands out about her husband, Marjorie said, he was a quiet, unassuming person. He was a caring man, and he was my best friend. He loved Thanksgiving and having family around, and to this day, that family tradition goes on. Harry Cannell Sr. led a simple life with his wife Ellen, and his 2 children, Harry, who they called Bud, and Jane Cannell. They lived in North Billerica. Harry worked at the Talbot Mill as a truck driver, and was always ready and willing to work when the call came from the firehouse. The call bell was displayed in their kitchen, and the box alarm locations were written down on a piece of paper pinned to the basement door. During the Christmas season, Santa would make his annual trip through the streets of Billerica. Harry and Ellen would prepare lunches for Santa and all his helpers that were aboard the fire department ladder truck. He would often volunteer to cover a shift for his brother firefighters who had young children at home for the Christmas holiday. He enjoyed gardening and starting all his vegetables and flowers from seed in his greenhouse. In the fall, he and his wife would work together, harvesting and canning. On Sunday, after teaching Sunday school class at North Billerica Baptist Church and singing in the choir, he and Ellen would prepare a traditional Sunday family dinner. Rarely would there be an empty seat at their table. Family and church were very important parts of their lives, along with lending a helping hand to anyone in need. Harry's passion for the fire department was passed down to his son, Harry Cannell Jr., and grandson, Chris Cannell, who's here with us today. 3 generations of Cannell family members have served on the Billerica Fire Department. So as we honor these individuals today, even though their lives were cut short, let us not forget the people they were, the lives they touched, and the rich legacies they left behind. Thank you.
The title of my poem is A Town Remembers. It certainly did his best. We pay this tribute to our fallen heroes, their names etched here in stone, who lost their lives in the line of duty. Such a sacrifice stands alone. Some fought fires, some kept the peace, and some rendered first aid. In our eyes, they will always be heroes for the sacrifice that they made. At night, when I hear the sirens wailing, a shiver often runs down my spine as I think of those brave men and women who every day put their lives on the line.